All right. So welcome back to another episode of All About Balance. And today I am joined by UK legend, standout grappler, multiple time champion across various promotions, Mr. Ashley Williams. Ash, how's it going?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me, Harry.
Anytime, my friend, anytime. So for anyone that doesn't live under a rock in the jiu-jitsu scene, you'll see that Ash went out and put on a really good performance against another veteran UK grappler in Kev Corkill. Do you want to just talk us through how that match came about and how you felt?
Yeah, obviously, given the current circumstances, with the current conditions in the world, nothing about prep or kind of our training conditions are ideal. The truth is, I think I wanted to compete 100%. I was really game. I was game to put on a show, but equally it was important for me that a show went ahead so that grappling fans around the UK could have something to look forward to. I know, for example, when football came back on, how much that give people a sense of normality and a sense of just, happiness in their life. So it was really cool for me because I got a lot of people messaging me after going, oh, it was wicked to watch you on TV again. It was really cool to see you back out there. I wasn't overly concerned on opponent, to be honest. I just wanted to get back out there and have a match. The truth is, obviously on paper, I believe I was a heavy favourite against Kev. Kev, I've heard really good things about Kev, and a lot of people have spoken very highly of his ability. But I felt like the match was, fairly straightforward. I didn't really feel under any pressure or danger at any given point. I would have liked to finish him, to be honest. But it was, I think it was not like wing rust, but just a bit of getting a sweat and in competition format and feeling again. And it just didn't come. The finish didn't really come. I did start to pick up the pace minute 6, where I passed and took his back. I felt pretty good. I should have pushed a bit harder for the finish then. But I liked to be back out there, to be honest. It was nice to do 10 minutes. It was nice just to feel, being in the competition, feeling again. I do prefer the crowd and the other stuff, not that I'm a showman in terms of I only want to perform if there's people there to watch me. But it really gets your atmosphere going. It really makes you want to dig deep and push a bit harder. And it's nice to have people there to watch your craft, because that's what we're doing. We put a lot of effort into finessing our jiu-jitsu. And at the end of the day, me and Kev Corkill went out there and, we just tested our jiu-jitsu against each other. I've no doubt I'm matching him again at some point. But, I think I just proved that I still comfortably, I'm a good level competitor, and, I want to get back out there and compete against the best of the best, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a couple of questions to come out of that. I mean, obviously, Kev Corkill is notoriously hard to finish, right? And I think he showed that in your match. I think it's fair to say that you weren't in gear 5, and I think it's fair to say Kev probably wasn't in gear 5 either. But it was a good showing of jiu-jitsu, as you say. It was a good way of getting back to normality. It was good for you to go out there and compete. And actually, the first question I have from what you've said is how different was it to not compete with a crowd, to literally just rock up before your match, warm up, turn up, and that was it?
There were certain parts that were more enjoyable because the nerves were less, for sure, and I felt a little bit less pressure. But I didn't really enjoy the lack of, some positions where you might dog a little bit harder and push harder when the cheers start coming. It kind of spurs you on, to kind of get that extra push, dig down a little bit deeper in the gas tank, and just put the nitro into a little bit, push harder for whatever you want. So that was bizarre, but on the flip side, it made the day a little bit less dramatic, I suppose. I speak about this quite frequently with my students. You get a lot of guys across the UK competing on Polaris and Grapplefest, and they get good opportunities to fight on these shows, Pantheon. There's so many opportunities for people, but the true test to what level grappler you are is not the shows you're fighting on, but rather the people you're fighting against. So on that show, for me, the reason why I was so laid back is because I felt as if I was going to have a comfortable match with regards to my opponent, where Fionn and Dan Strauss, for example, other UK representatives, had significantly tougher matches.
Absolutely.
Real like world-class matches, like the ones that deserve a crowd of a couple of thousand people watching. Do you mean like they deserved an arena full of people watching them and spurring them on, if I fought Kev Kelker, I'd have grappling matches, him in my gym, in his gym, whatever, just streaming live, people would watch him. That it wouldn't bother me. So it was different for me, I believe, because the comfort level. But for the other guys on the card, the two, especially the main and co-main event, I think they would have probably been a little bit better with the crowd, and I think it would have actually it would feel natural. There was a lot of entertainment, a lot of
brilliant match. Yeah, brilliant.
But I believe they probably would have been a level higher again. If the crowd was there, I think it would have pushed them that much harder to potentially just chase that like glory, push hard to finish the opponent. So it was very interesting. I give it to you. It was really surreal, interesting feeling fighting, competing in those conditions. Would I do it again? Yes. But it does depend on the match. Like if there was a bigger name, I would definitely prefer to have a good crowd and get some atmosphere going. Like those nerves, like they're good nerves. They make you feel alive. So definitely interesting.
Yeah, and I think the other point I wanted to touch on is you saying that you got lots of messages from people saying that they were grateful to you to go back out there and compete and to have some form of normality. Like obviously you had to have some form of training camp for that match, if nothing more than just to get your cardio ready. Like did it feel good to you to be back on that sort of scene and have a match booked?
100%. Like I really think, and I've said this numerous times to different people, but the COVID situation, granted, is terrible in a lot of respects in terms of the economics, the country, obviously the death rate, and obviously people getting ill health, etc. It's just really terrible. But with regards to a lot of other people, I feel like maybe it's give a forced reset to their life, where they'll maybe a step back and go, is this really what I want to do? Is this where I want to be leading myself? Is this what I want to be, chasing for the rest of my life? And I can honestly just say that, every time I've had when we first went to lockdown, I had 4 weeks and I didn't roll at all. Then I started rolling once a week with one of my business partners. So I started rolling with him because I was seeing him anyway for work. And it's just mad how much it makes you feel alive. It's insane. Like I went 4 days after the Kev Corker match. With the driving up and down. I've got a few little injuries with my hips and other stuff, so I didn't actually train for 3-4 days. And then on the 5th day, I was like, I'll just roll and just see how it goes. Because I was feeling really sore. And as soon as I rolled, I was like, oh my god, like this is what it feels like to be to be normal. Like it's what makes you. It made me way happier. Even though I was sore, I was aching afterwards. Everything that comes with training hard. The next day, I was hurting all over. But I always think that you can't replace the feeling of training. So that's why I love the Kev Corker match, because it just allowed me to be like, we got a goal again. We got a date. We got something set. So it means that we got to be in the gym. We got to be training. We got to be rolling. I was probably rolling 3 to 4 times a week for about 6 weeks leading up to the Kev Corker match. I actually had 10 days off in that 6 weeks because I've been getting this treatment, cranial fascial release, which is, I don't know if you are familiar or if you've heard of it.
I don't know what that is, no.
It sounds mad, okay, but basically it's, a lot of UFC fighters had it for concussion. So basically it's like a balloon that gets inserted up into your nasal cavity.
Fuck that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Fuck that.
It's expanded into your head. So I've been having that treatment quite intensively over this lockdown period because I have to have a bit of time off training to have it, and obviously seemed like a good time to try it out. It's not massively tried and tested, and I'm having mixed results right now. But I've tried a lot of other things with regards to trying to recover from a neck injury I sustained a few years back, and it definitely is helping with regards to just having clearer thought and a few I have massive headache problems, like stiff neck. So I've been getting a bit of release of tension. So I had about 10 days off during my camp,
yeah,
so to say, to have this intense treatment. But I'm still doing the treatment right now, like once a week to keep it taken over. And it was really interesting. So that's what I mean. It's like the camp, like it wasn't like, you know, like when I was competing against Ethan, Imanari,
Richard Alacon.
all these guys, you know, when I fought on the last Pantheon, like the camp bed for the last Pantheon was tremendous, and it showed on the night. You know, I really felt great in that performance.
Some great performances, yeah.
I was training twice a day, 5 days a week, and just everything was in full flow, and my body was feeling great. My diet was really good. You know, when I went to lockdown the first 2 weeks, I ballooned up straight away. I was up to like 77 kilos, because I went from like eating like relatively good to nip into the shop every day for a pack of biscuits and
Of course,
cakes and muffins and everything else, But after 2 weeks, like I looked in, and I literally was like looking in the mirror, and I was like, "You got to words yourself, like you're disgusting."
Yeah.
So I did try to strict that, but I started just doing like one cheat day, and then like lower it down to like, I'll have a nice weekend of food, then I'll have a cheat day, then I'll have a cheat meal. So like I just reduced it gradually. Like I tell a lot of people, when like in particular, like when you come back from lockdown, for example, if you start training, so your output's doing this. If you want to do output this, and then you want to like change your diet at the exact same time, and go, right, I'm going to go cold turkey. I'm going to start training. I'm going to diet good. So your output does this, and your input does this. It's the best recipe for injury and illness.
Yep.
So when I first started training, when I was coming out, like into like the training for once I got the match confirmed, I actually like upped my food a little bit, to just give me some freedom to train. I did the training aspect first, and then once I was back in the rhythm of training 2-3 times a week, and getting comfortable with the rounds, then I started to gradually reduce my intake. So then I could, I like 70.5, and it was day per weigh-in, so I hot bath 0.5 kilos. So like I was pretty much walking under 70 by that point. I'm at about 72 right now. So back down to a comfortable competing weight, which is always nice. I know like a lot of competitors, it's way worse for MMA fighters, for example. They balloon really badly.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah, so like what we discussed as a team when we restart training properly as like pros, and all our MMA fighters and grapplers are all back and we're all looking to compete, we're just going to try and get consistency. Consistency is the key thing. Like, you don't want to do a diet that you can't keep to, but you want a diet where you feel happy and healthy. So that's been the key thing. So it was lifting. I don't lift that much. I don't really enjoy lifting. So at the start of lockdown, I was lifting a lot. In the first 3-4 weeks, I was lifting like every day. Really trying to work myself and work on weaknesses. But then as soon as I started rolling, I was like, oh my God.
Fuck that shit. Can't be doing with that shit.
I just realized what fun is. Do you mean? Like, it's literally, as like someone's like, I don't really like steak, it's not for me. And then you go to a really nice steakhouse and you have a steak and you're like, what am I missing this whole time? Do you mean? Like, Jesus Christ, this is incredible. So like, it's, I was lifting all the time, and I was like, in my head, I was like, yeah, this is great, doing a lot of yoga, and I was really enjoying it. And then like my enjoyment for it was going lower and lower, but I was trying to keep the consistency because I feel like that's important. And then when I started rolling, I was like, what? I was like, let's reduce the lifting straight away, get rid of that. Let's reduce the yoga a little bit because we're back rolling now, and we're just loving life. So I just having such a good time. And then when the weather broke, I've been playing a lot of golf lately for some active recovery.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just nice to get out of the house. I compete game quite a lot, so to keep consistency of trying to stay active, you can't roll and collide with each other every single day, every hour of the day. Because I'm not coaching either. I'm not coaching, so there's so much time in the day to fill. And everyone's like, oh, just train, and you're like, yeah, okay, so I've done that for 2 hours. What do you want me to do now?
Yeah.
It's more, and you're like, that's not how it works. Like, your body can't take infinite amount of training. You've got to be sensible when it comes to training. So it was really, it was just fun. It was fun. That's what the main thing that I wanted to take the match for, is just to give myself a kind of kick up the bum, reset, and go, let's just go out there, do some jiu-jitsu. It always crossed my head that I could lose. I never go to a match and just think like, oh, I'm definitely going to win. Like, there's no way I could not lose this guy. I never think that. I always think there's outcomes are possible, and it could be negative. But I tried to just go out there and then just do my jiu-jitsu, And to be fair, in training, I felt great. I got some really good guys I've been rolling with. I've really been trying to develop different parts of my game. I tried a few of those things in the match. They didn't come across as good as I wanted them to, but obviously I hope to keep improving those holes in the game, and then in the future show that development.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you've touched on a few things there about, consistency and having a diet that you actually want to stick to. And I, for one, like I'm in a similar boat to you that I really despise lifting. It bores me so much. But then when I'm able to roll, or, when I get to a point where I can roll, I'm just like, like this is what the fun is, right? This is where the fun is. Yeah. And I think that that's something that can be expanded out of just physical exercise, right? And that's, a lot of people do things, especially in lockdown. I think it's been given, people do stuff in their normal lives, which they do because they feel like they should do, not because they actually enjoy it, right? And I think lockdown gave a lot of people, and of course, as you touched on, it's for some people, it's an absolutely terrible situation. People being furloughed, people being made redundant, people getting poorly, people's relatives getting poorly, like some absolutely awful stories. But for some people that have been either fortunate enough to keep a job or have been furloughed and can still pay their bills and stuff, it's kind of given them a chance to, as you say, reset and figure out what it is they want to do with life, right? What it is they find comfort in, what it is they find fun, what it is they actually want to do, right?
Yeah, I think it's just a balance, like we've in terms of a business and a gym, we've suffered really heavily.
I can imagine, yeah.
And it's really hard because we've got a lot of coaches who work out of the gym, and like a lot of people said, "Oh, don't worry, the government will help you." I'm telling you right now, they didn't. Like I promise you, like the government did not give us the help we needed. So we've got to make do. We're really grateful to our members who have continued to support us through this time. And obviously, when we're back on our feet and everything's going well again, we totally expect and we want to show appreciation to our members. But right now, Jimmy, it's just a struggle. But then in terms of my personal life, in terms of how I feel about the sport and how I want to compete and how I feel about going forward after lockdown ends, I'm far more positive, and I really am looking forward to I hate the idea of normality returning, because at the end of the day, a lot of people can live a good, normal life right now. It's just what you do with your time, But it is really hard, like on a Friday, you might be like, go on, I was having to sit down today, eat a chocolate on Saturday, watch some TV, and before you know it, it's Monday.
Yeah.
It's really easy to do. It's a case of just not letting yourself get into that rut.
Yep. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I want to kind of move on to one of the main questions I had. So I put a post out, I put like a question out on Instagram, and I said to people, like, what sort of things would you like to see from the podcast? And one of the things that came back was, the question was, I think it was from John Fleming. So shout out to John. It was from a coach's perspective and from a high level athlete's perspective, how do you structure your coaching and how do you structure your own training? Obviously these are two separate topics, but how do you structure your training for your own athletes, and how do you structure your training for yourself to try and get the most out of you, right? And what sort of coaching philosophies, what sort of coaching methodologies do you use?
So I've been very fortunate in the position I'm in terms of my gym and my surroundings and the support I get from a lot of people. So, it's different when you're an athlete in a gym, you're trying to make it, but your coach maybe their business is suffering. They're trying to accommodate for the casual grapplers, or trying to get more people like mid-aged people in, just to kind of pay the bills and that.
Yeah.
But with myself, I've been very fortunate, and the gym is doing well, and our timetable changed to accommodate the competitors for the gym. So the competition classes, the classes we the most roll in, are actually the quietest classes we have.
Right.
But it's still like there's 20 guys on the mat, usually 20 to 28 guys maybe on the mat. But that would be one of our quieter classes on our timetable. But within that class, there's a lot of young guys who are hungry, who just want to go, and they were pushed for a full session, and you have a great session. But for example, if I had EBI, we'd be doing EBI rounds. If it was ADCC, we'd do ADCC rounds. Like every time I had a tournament, like the class would tailor to kind of who had the nearest tournament, but the highest level, So like if an MMA guy was fighting, like when Aiden was fighting,
Brett John's fighting soon.
Yeah, we'd tailor the class to try to kind of fit training that would suit them.
Yep.
And when I was competing, we'd tailor it to suit me. But what we're going to do going forward, which I think is very important for a lot of athletes, is trying to separate your training and your coaching time.
Yep.
So we've got a few guys who train full time. So we're hoping to do a big chunk of our training in a day. So like we get together right now, a few of us to roll, and with a lot of the guys we've got training full time. The plan is after this is to train in the morning for about 3 hours and do like a full session where we do weights, yoga, mobility, rolling, sparring, like gi, no gi, kind of whatever people need as well. And then in the evening, then just teach, because it can be very difficult. The main one is the mindset. The problem is I get is like when I walk into the gym, I walk through the doors, I'm an athlete. And it can be because like in my class, I'm trying to teach and roll. I just like, oh, from this position, I'm like, wait, this is like, come on, like I'm rolling right now. This is my time. We can come to that after class. So I do a Q&A after every single one of my classes because I feel like I want to give back to all the guys on the mat. But going forward, what I really want to do is I want to try and split my time and focus on being a coach in like 2 hours of the day and an athlete in like 2-3 hours of the day. I want to try and separate those two things because you see quite a lot, like say you're coaching like a white or a blue belt and you're trying to show them something nice and light. Then when you actually go with someone, if say your first round then is very tough, you get wrecked for the first 30 seconds because your head is still like in the thinking as if you're dealing with very primary problems or very simple problems. Where when a big like high level dude then comes at you, you're like, oh, where'd that come from? So that's why I think you need to have a definitive separation in your head of are you coaching right now or are you training right now? Like wait, is it your time or is it their time? Because you've got to have a split. You don't want to like have a grey area there, and you want to make sure that you get the most out of your own time. One of the things I'm very, very big on is purposeful practice. So like, and I speak to a lot of my students about this. I think one thing that like, for example, lockdown's highlighted for me is the fact that like you don't have to train 8 hours a day. Like, do you really have to be training 3 times a day, 6 days a week to say you're a full-time athlete? Like, it's when a lot of people say this as well, like they might go for like a 20-minute run and that's one session. Often someone says I train 3 times a day and in someone's head then that's like 3 12 sessions or 3 hour-and-a-half sessions, but it's not really, it's not going to be that much time. So the big thing I'm big on is that when I'm at the gym, if I'm at the gym for an hour, I am working and training for the hour. Like you get a lot of guys, I see it all the time, you get people hanging around, chilling out, talking between rounds and whatever, then next thing they know, they're like, oh, I've been here for 3 hours. I'm like, yeah, you've done 3 rounds. Like you've done 3 rounds of sparring and it's been 2.5 hours, I've passed by. Like you're wasting your own time. And that for me is one of the biggest killers, especially because jiu-jitsu is quite a laid-back sport.
Yeah.
And that like blasé attitude of everyone's like, yeah, let's just chill, have a good time. And you're like, no, like let's go to work and then let's chill and have a good time. Let's separate that idea of we train and then we don't train and we can have socializing. But obviously a lot of people who come to classes, for example, generic classes, do come for social aspects.
Yeah.
So that's why I think you've got to define in your head what usage of that time you're using it for. Like what is the usage of that time? Is it coaching? Is it training? And like when I come down, I'm very goal oriented. I've got specific things in my head. The hardest thing with jiu-jitsu, I believe, when it comes to purposeful practice, is, for example, if you go to a generic weights gym and you've got bench press on your scale, like your lifting program that day, if you go to any weights gym almost in the country, you can guarantee there's a bench press there. So you could literally go like, oh, this is my routine I'm going to do today. So these are my goals. You could go to any gym in the UK, in the world pretty much, and you can guarantee do deadlift, squat, bench press, kettlebells, dumbbells. I mean, you know what's going to be the equipment to utilize that day. With jiu-jitsu, you could be like, right, today I'm going to work really hard on my my berimbau balls, and then you've got a bunch of heavyweights on the mat, or you're like, oh, I'm going to work super hard on my wrestling, and then you've got guys all 15 kilos lighter than you.
Yeah.
And the problem is like the equipment, which is your training partners, varies so much from day to day, and it's not within your control, really. You know, it's very difficult to get consistency of everyone being on the mat all the time, everyone being injury-free, not tired. You know, like, if you have a bad night's sleep, I say this all the time, like, a barbell can't have a bad night's sleep.
Yeah.
A barbell can't have a bad diet for the day. A barbell can't be hungover. So, like, if my training partner comes to the gym and he's had a bad night's sleep and he's really not feeling good, then the efficiency of my training is now affected. But it's not his fault. You know, at the end of the day, I have a bad night's sleep sometimes. You know, I'm not the most effective training partner for my sparring partners.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one issue in jiu-jitsu, I think, is a key thing when it comes to goal setting and managing your training, is the fact that you've got to understand that the equipment around you varies considerably, which means, like, say, for example, let's say myself and you, Harry, were sparring. You know, probability would say that you couldn't pass my guard. You know, realistically, it would be very difficult for you to pass my guard.
99.8% maybe.
Yeah, you know, if we did five fives and you know, five fives, probably you wouldn't pass my guard once. Is the chances of that, you know, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Same as, like, if you look at Meow, like, passing Meow's guard in five fives is statistically impossible, you know.
Yeah.
But let's say I have a horrendous day, you know, a really bad night's sleep, like, I've had a lot of personal issues going on in my life, really bad stuff going on, and then we spar and you have to pass my guard 3 times. So, like, if you go to a gym and out of the blue, you can, like, double your weight on a bench press, you would probably like, nah, these weights aren't right.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go like, oh man, look at that, I'm killing it today. Like, yes, I could move 100 kilos today, I'm pushing 200 kilos. There's no way in your head you would comprehend that and go, that seems like genuine progress.
Yeah.
You would think, what's wrong with the weights? What's wrong with the bar? What's wrong with, like, you would question everything. But a lot of people when it comes to jiu-jitsu would go like, oh my God, my passing was lit today. You know, and they'd be like, I was so good. I was all over everyone. And you're like, they could have been having a bad day.
Yeah.
Like, they could have actually been having a bad day. And it's not taking away, it's not subtracting from you, but it's just making the actual situation realistic.
Yeah. So as a coach, like, if you put your coaching hat on, how do you try to promote in your students? I mean, I guess the first question is how do you coach people, right? What's your style of coaching? Because then that will lead on to, you know, all the other trees of questions.
So when it comes to my coaching, the problem is obviously the conceptual and ABC approach to coaching is very difficult because of what we just spoke about, you know, because of the idea of who's there on any given day.
Yep.
So the way I try to coach is, for example, I believe a lot of coaches, or I've seen a lot of coaches coach to body size and shape. So, for example, Dan Strauss has got a really, really good, like, shoulder clamp sequence he does. Mm-hmm. And I just don't believe that's physically within everyone's possibility within every role. As in, if I had a 100-kilo guy, the shoulder clamp sweep for me would be very, very difficult to pull off. So I feel as my job as a coach is to provide you with the most, like, generic version, you know, like kind of like the base level of this technique, and then allow body shapes and sizes to kind of, like, if there's 5 main points, you know, like, they might adjust this one to suit them, or someone else might adjust this one to suit them. You know, so I think it's my job as a coach to go round and then adjust the base level of a technique to fit into a body shape or size primarily. You know, that's why I think coaches do work quite bad. So, like, in our gym, I don't believe there's carbon copies. I try not to carbon copy ourselves. It's actually one of the things that we are trying to come away from. So, for example, my passing system, a lot of people use the same passing system I use in the gym. So through lockdown, we've actually been studying a lot of leg pin passing, over under passing, bucket scoop passing, a lot of Keenan's passing, like these, like, 4 passes people are doing. Cody Steele's got this really nice knee cut he does. So we've been, like, studying a lot of, like, other passing and then make sure we give that information to students and then allow them to adapt it and develop themselves.
Yeah, I think that's hugely important, right? It's hugely important to just not have mini Ash and Josh and Chris's running around the gym and instead versions of themselves.
Exactly. That's what, you don't, because otherwise, like, I always say, like, if I kept trying to be like Meow, I'd never beat Meow. Because, he's doing this, and I go, oh, catch up with him. But you caught up with him, now he's here. Catch up with him, he's there. Like, if you keep trying to imitate someone else's game, you're limited by that person's progression.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you focus on your progression and how you approach it, how you approach each technique, each concept, and add it into your style, then you got like limitless, unlimited potential in how much you could progress. Like the sky's the ceiling. Like, it keeps raising the bar. Where if you keep imitating within your gym, the ceiling actually is getting lower, and that's what you want to avoid. In my opinion, as a coach. And like I often say to my guys, like, the reason I'm confident in a lot of the techniques I coach is because they are genuinely tried and tested. And you watch me compete against super tough guys. Like when I speak to a lot of people, like with, for example, Rio Tolo match is probably one of the worst ones I could take because I didn't perform very well. But when you take Cade Rio Tolo, like a lot of the UK gyms like sparred with him, and I saw loads of people post online like 3 days before, like, oh my God, he wouldn't stop moving. He tapped me like 10 times in 5 minute round. And so if you took like these guys and just put them into a generic gym, chances are they could probably submit everybody in the whole gym back to back to back to back just repeatedly. And obviously I'm going on the mats against those guys and I'm holding my own and proving my own jiu-jitsu and showing people that what I'm capable of. So when I coach with confidence because I believe what I'm showing works. And that's one big difference, I think, with when you have actually got competitors in your gym, is the fact that they are genuinely trying and testing their techniques. Like my first question always is someone, they go, oh, I've been working this new pass, and I'm like, oh, cool. Who have you worked it on? And they're like, oh, I caught on these couple of blue belts, and I'm like, okay, like that's like in beta phase or like or way further down the line, because there's still a lot more steps to go before you've proven that technique. Like you've battle proven the technique to a point where you can coach it confidently. And I think that's one actually area. Like, I'm not saying every coach has got to compete, but every coach should watch their athletes utilize the techniques they are coaching. And if they are working, then they need to keep developing it. Or if they're not working, they need to adjust it to make it work. When you've got a gym where there's no real competitors and the only test is against each other, then it's quite limited to where you can get. Because like the box is getting smaller all the time, not bigger.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really produce exponential growth in ability.
And do you think that because you're an active competitor, do you think that inspires or motivates people in your gym that are just starting at white belt or a blue belt or whatever to then compete?
Okay.
Or
that's super interesting because it happens quite frequently. Like in the gym, we've got a couple of hundred students and things. Like we've got a lot of guys on the mat. We've got great fundamentals program runs, but I don't coach the fundamental students. So like I think one of the biggest fundamental class we had was just shy of like 50 people on the mat, and you'll get someone from the desk and like my class is actually on an adjacent mat at the same time. And like someone will come off the class and ask one of the girls on the desk, like, oh, what class is that next door? And they're like, oh, that's submission grappling class. And they're like, oh, who coaches that? And they're like, oh, Ashley Williams. And they're like, oh, is he any good? And like, my point is like, a lot of like lower level guys within a gym realistically don't actually have any idea. When you've not been immersed in the world for, if you've not been immersed in the world for even a few weeks, few months, then chances are you won't actually know a high level competitor in the gym if they walk straight past you.
Sure.
But when you start to get the buzz for it, I believe having a competitor in the gym is inspiring for other people. We spoke with the other day, actually, Joe Gordon Ryan obviously is very forthcoming about the fact that he is doing very well financially and he's very good within what he's doing. Like, although I'm not the biggest Gordon Ryan fan, that it's still inspiring though to know that it's possible to become a millionaire from jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, exactly. And this is kind of my point, right? Is let's say they don't know that there's a high level grappler, a high level competitive grappler in their gym. When they do find that out, they're like, oh, so the guy that walks past me in the changing rooms, he's able to do that thing too. Like, it's possible. It is possible.
Yeah. And that's what I love the most about, we got a lot of 16, 17-year-olds. We've even got a couple of teenagers, who love jiu-jitsu, and their parents legitimately talk to me and be like, oh, I would love it if they were doing what you do when they're older. That's amazing, because when I was their age, nobody was doing what I was doing. So when I was telling people I want to compete full-time and be a full-time athlete, people were going, oh, well, that's not actually a real thing. Like, you're not America, you're not these guys, you're just from the small gym. And I'm like, yeah, but once someone does it, someone else can do it. And then someone else can do it, I actually look, I don't know if have you watched Coach Carter?
I've not watched Coach Carter, no.
Oh, okay, so after this, you should just immediately watch Coach Carter. Okay,
Fine.
It's a phenomenal film. But there's a speech in that film, and in my opinion, the interpretation of that speech is exactly what we're talking about, where when you succeed, you actually, by default, you give someone else the inspiration to be able to succeed as well. I'm not saying they're definitely going to succeed, but I'm saying what you've done is actually given other people an opportunity to believe that is something that could happen, which I think is really good. I think it's brilliant in the jiu-jitsu community where, when you see like Fionn, Ross, Stan, and all these other people competing at the highest level, part of you is sometimes like, because I'm honest, like, I believe a lot of people watch me as well to want me to lose. It happens in every sport. People want people to lose. People want people to win. Up to a certain level, everyone's like, yes, yes, yes. And then when they get to this level, everyone's kind of like, we won't mind if you take a loss now. Like, if you just got knocked down a peg. And I'm like, cool, watch me if you want to watch me lose. Because that doesn't matter. Like, I'm going to go out there and just do what I want to do anyway. And the people who want to get inspired will. The people who want to watch me lose, when I lose, you can enjoy yourself for that day. But I'll bounce back. So it's wicked to watch all these UK guys do what they do. And I'm sure a lot of people secretly want a few people to lose. But the truth is, when I watch UK grapplers, I got nothing but I always want people to succeed. The only thing I wish happened more is people geographically outside of London got a little bit more attention. That's the only thing I think in the UK would be nice, is if the geographics of the country wasn't centered primarily around London, and there was more attention given to athletes outside of that. So, kind of love was spread. There's like Bradley Hills and like Oliver Lavelle and other guys, who are doing incredible work, who I think just don't really get the recognition they deserve.
Sure, and I mean, I think that's probably a larger point as well, not just in jiu-jitsu, but generally, right? That London is obviously the hub, quote unquote, of the UK, and for a lot of people outside the UK, you can say London and they'll know what that means, but you could say Swansea or Cardiff and they've got no idea where that is, right? Like, so I certainly see your point, and I wondered, like, when
we take like Flow Grappling, for example.
Yeah.
If I was in London or if I was in America, I believe I would make their feed every so often,
Right.
But as like even on Grapplefest, even though like I think I'm ranked 11th on their rankings, they didn't even mention that I was competing on Grapplefest. So that doesn't make sense to me. Like, as in, they could have given me a boost there in my profile, to help me out a little bit. It doesn't help, obviously, that Fionn and Salita are on the cards. Obviously, they got a massive portion of the limelight, and Dan Strauss and
Jackson Souza.
They're big names, and I appreciate that. But you would think that, considering like I'm ranked within their platform, they would have given me a recognition when I had a match within their platform.
I mean, I think Flow are a contentious sort of bunch anyway, in that, like I'm not so sure, like the Pedigo submission fighting team and Andrew Witzel and whatever, and they seem to be hot favorites for him, and they seem to be pushing for him to get sponsors with these people and that people, and look, I mean, that's great for him, that's great for his team, that's great for his future, but what I don't know is like how does that come across? They're supposed to be an unbiased media brand, right?
That's what I think is brilliant about Flow and all the other people who like are an unbiased platform, and they show incredible bias.
Yeah.
Like, because I even thought I even thought like a few people's write-ups of the Fionn and Talita match were really unfair, because I thought Talita Fionn did a fantastic job. I'm not taking it from Fionn at all. But people, there's a lot of write-ups as if like Talita was very lucky to kind of win. And I was like, well, no, I thought Talita did a really good job as well. You know, like, I know she's a lot larger, and you know, in particular, you know, the way she used her size was effective. But
Isn't that the point?
Fionn accepted the match and Fionn wanted the match, so why take away from Talita because you want her to lose? Because that's what people are doing. You know, they're taking away from Talita because they wanted her to lose, because she was the bigger athlete.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, you know, people will always go for the underdog, right? And on that match, you know, the Grapplefest rule set is defined around submission attempts, whether they're locked in or whether they're not. And it's less, you know, this was highlighted massively by Craig McIntosh and Ellis Younger, right?
That really frustrates me, that does, because
of course.
I like both. I actually like both athletes. I like both guys. I think Craig's a wicked dude. I think Ellis is a wicked dude. But let's be honest about that match. Ellis won,
but that's in a perfect rule set, right? Like, the only argument I will have is look, Ellis was quite clearly dominating the positional portion of that match, but all Ellis had to do to win that match was throw a sub attempt on. Doesn't even matter what it was.
That's backstage was what we were actually. Me and Fionn were actually watching on her phone, and I was like, I think your boy's gonna lose decision, because he just needs to do. It doesn't matter if he just throw anything right now.
Could have tried a wrist lock. Doesn't matter.
Anything would have done, you know. And I felt bad for that, but the only reason I'm not a big fan of just the closest submission wins is because the word closest
exactly
shows is subjective.
Yeah.
There's no, like, it's like, if, for example, they had like even a submission counter or something where someone was going like, boom, sub attempt, doing like, because Naga give you a point for a sub attempt.
Yep.
So even if you disagree that that was a submission attempt, there is a clear representation that, boom, look, we have, as a ref, I have subjectively chosen that is a submission attempt. That is a point. So then me as the other athlete can go, oh, well, I'm going to have to do something now to show that I need a point on my board, you know? And that's the only thing I think about the submission rule set tournaments, where it's just closest submission gets the win, because it's too subjective. As in,
yeah, I mean, and I think on the Tayan Fionn matches, like, look, Fionn's guard retention was phenomenal. Her submission defense was phenomenal, and that's, you know, we can't take anything away. But inside the rule set, Tayan had a great strategy. She played on top. She attacked toe holds whenever she had a chance.
Toe holds, wrist locks.
Wrist locks, kimuras, and, you know, Americanas, whatever she could get hold of. And look, that's what scored her points. There wasn't too much positional dominance because she didn't spend too much time, you know, like Fionn had her back a couple of times and whatever, and that's great positional dominance.
That's it. One of the write-ups said like, oh, Fionn took it back and this and that, and I was like, she didn't get both hooks in at any point.
Yeah.
Like, she did in IBJF, you know, in IBJF she would not score a back take.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, even though Fionn did incredible, because she really did, man. Like, if you think like that's like me competing against Craig Jones, so dude, it really is like such a big weight advantage and a horrendous condition to compete in. But I thought, like, exactly, for an unbiased platform to like say to everyone how the match went, I thought it was a bit unfair, because basically people was being biased against Talita because they wanted to lose. Yeah,
and you know, I think, I think you've summed up that point really well, frankly, and I think there's something as well that people it's about the rule set that you're competing, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
If that was in an IBJJF match, you know, Ellis would have racked up 20, 30 points. Like, it was a lot.
Did you watch the Players tournament?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
So, for example, I saw someone comment that like Dominic Dillon got robbed, and I was like, no, he didn't.
Yeah.
I commented. I was like, unfortunately, Dominic Dillon did phenomenal.
Yep, great performance.
There was no robbery because within the rule set, he swept himself.
Yeah.
And lost by a point.
Yep. And, you know, like,
you signed up to.
I thought Ross was very, very honest, brutally honest in the post fight when he said, look, he managed to figure out a hole in my game, and he did really well at figuring out that hole. And I was fortunate that I managed to get the sweep. And look, that's exactly it.
Ross isn't as vocal on social media, because I'd really like to, see his point of view on that tournament, and just how, and I kind of, like we're talking now about, like, you know, prep and how stuff went leading up to it, because it wasn't really the Ross we used to seeing. I really didn't feel like he was as offensive as he usually is. You know, even the Bradley Hill match, to a certain extent, like, if Bradley wasn't actually pushing like Bradley was, Ross wouldn't have been able to get the submission attempt he got. Because Ross wasn't really that offensive from guard until Bradley pushed hard enough and then kind of made a little bit of a mistake for a second. Because if they had given the decision to Bradley, I actually would have been fine with it. Because he was ensuing all the pressure. You know, he was the person who was making action happen, and Ross really wasn't actually pushing after any offense at all. You know, and it's a really big shame, because that I actually think the point system in that tournament took a lot away from performance.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people give bad reviews on the way that the points were scored in that Polaris tournament.
Yeah.
And you know, I think the difficulty is that there is absolutely no single point of truth of a point system, because look, you go for like, I was listening to Keenan talk the other day, and Keenan was saying, like, if I'm in an IBGF tournament and somebody's about to pass my guard, I'll just grab an illegal grip.
Yep.
And I'll grab an illegal grip because I have to, and I'll get a disadvantage, but I don't get my guard passed, and we reset in a neutral position.
Yep.
You know,
exactly.
and
no, there's no. I've been. I don't know if you've been watching any of the third course grappling Kuma days.
Yep.
I've been really enjoying their rule set lately. You know, but I already think that there's, you know, there can be holes and exploitation in their rule set. But as a rule set and whole, like, I actually think it's very interesting.
Yeah, and you know, I think, as with everything, like, look at EBI. The evolution of EBI is that when it started, it was a pretty good rule set. Everyone was enjoying it. It was cool. It pushed for submissions. Now it's a stall out until overtime. Yeah,
it's just a shootout. Like, that's actually why I lost more and more interest and enthusiasm to compete on EBI, because I felt like every time I went there, I was trying to go kind of balls to the wall in the 10 and try to push and show my jiu-jitsu, and then kind of just watch all the other athletes on the card ride out 10 minutes and then those backs. And I was like, that's not jiu-jitsu I enjoy doing, you know. But, you know, every rule set can be exploited, which I agree with, but it's down to the athletes, though, because if you want to just be more professional, like, for example, why he's going around so entertaining, because he finishes everyone.
Yes.
If he goes out there, he doesn't go, I'll just kind of get 2 points and stall. He goes, I'll get 2 points, then I'll still pass your guard, then I'll still take you back, then I'll still submit you. And if I don't, if there's 10 seconds left on the clock, I'll still go for a submission. I won't just hold on to the back and ride the time out. Like, he will push until the dying seconds to still finish the fight.
Yeah.
Which, if everyone had, like Herbal Santos, you know, he celebrated after his win over Daniel Strauss. How could you possibly celebrate that?
Jackson Souza, you mean, right?
Yeah. Like, how can you celebrate that as a performance?
Yeah.
Because all you actually did is you robbed every jiu-jitsu spectator of 10 minutes of their life. That's all you did. I mean, and I think that's really disappointing. Like, Cyborg can be quite bad for it. Cyborg can do a really boring match and then celebrate off a decision win or a 2-point win, where very little jiu-jitsu ensued in the match. And really, they do a disservice to a lot of other athletes who are trying to make a living for themselves out of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Do you think, is that something that you try and instill into your own fighters and your own athletes as well, is always pushing for the finish?
So no, I'm honest. I don't always say about the pushing for the finish, but what I do tell everyone is winning and losing and drawing and everything else is part of the sport and is part of being an athlete. But the only thing no one can take away from you is your own performance. So I tell everyone, like, just go out there and focus on yourself. Go out there, focus on your own performance, and you do as much as you possibly think you're capable of within that time frame. And because you can lose and still have a brilliant performance.
Of course. I mean, look, we just talked about Fionn and Tyen, right? Talked about them. Ellis Younger as well. Brilliant performances. Brilliant. Still lost a match.
Yeah, exactly. But people are still talking about it, and people still got respect for those athletes. And for me, that's what it's all about. So if you go out there and you put your performance on the line, then that's good enough. Like if my shooting lost and they said, "Oh, I tried to stall out, but I just couldn't do it," I go, "Well, you deserve to lose then." So if you were sitting there thinking in your head, "I want to stall out," lose. Do you know what I mean? Like if it's IBJF, you're 2 points up, and you could go for a risky like pass or just win with the last 30 seconds. Win because you need to get to the next round. In super fights, the only thing I think pros need to do is just penalise stalling more. Every rules if they penalise stalling harder.
I mean, that's something that we're looking the Pantheon rule set does quite well, right? Is there is very harsh stalling penalties, very very harsh.
What's the 5 man against 5 man? What's the quintet?
Quintet, yeah.
Quintet took stalling and injected steroids into it. Like they went mad. I saw like people getting stood up when they were in mount. They were like, stalling, back up. And I was like, well, man, like this guy's in mount trying to isolate an arm and he's getting put for stalling, you know? Like, I think they went a little bit too heavy.
I agree.
Stalling. But I do think a lot of other shows could meet quintet in the middle and they could push a little bit harder for stalling and create more action, you know? Like I think third course grappling, the heavyweight tournament, the one that just went this weekend, that was a prime example of where they could have been a bit harsher on that rule. Like the lightweights, for example, you don't often see as much stalling.
There's more gas in the tank. Yeah.
Yeah, they can push a lot harder for the time.
And I mean, I think, you know, I don't like necessarily to criticize other promotions, but I think in that Dan Strauss and Jackson Souza match, that's something that could have happened a little bit more, you know, stalling calls. Because look, these guys, don't get me wrong, like 100%. Jackson won a decision, but he won a decision because he almost got a takedown. Do you know what I mean? Like
that's madness. Like he won a decision on almost getting a takedown.
Yeah, and I think, you know, like it reminds me of a Polaris match before between Arias Fernandez and DJ Jackson, Devontae Jackson, sorry, where Devontae Johnson, Jesus Christ, and essentially they stood and did the same thing.
That match, I was on that card. Yeah, we were.
We were in Wales. We were there to watch you. Yeah,
we were on the back. We were in the back room watching that match. And we were all like, "What? No, come on!" And considering, I think like Lanigan had been on. Lanigan had been before.
Langaka was before, yeah.
Yeah, considering that match went on before, it really highlighted it. Because if the match before was quite boring, then you can get away with it. But when the match before you is fireworks, like when you come out and do that, it just kills. It kind of kills the vibe of the show. Then, you know, it does put a damper on it.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand. I absolutely understand. Jackson is a top player. He's a guard passer. Dan Strauss doesn't want to be underneath a really heavy guard passer. I get it. Like, I get it.
It's easy to sit there and criticize athletes and go, "Oh, they should have just pulled down. Oh, they should have just take them down." It's like, but if they make one mistake, they get guillotined. If they make one mistake, they get passed. If they make one mistake, fight's over. I mean, so like it's very easy to sit there. It seems like,
of course,
MMA, you're like, "Oh, you should just throw right
knock him out."
Yeah, like, oh, why did I think of that? There we are. Then I'll just knock everyone out every single fight first round. I mean, like that is not easy to do. But in terms of jiu-jitsu, I think the punishment is a lot less. Like MMA, if you lose, your career does, you know, this, and you're going to build back up. You could lose on a Saturday in jiu-jitsu, compete the next Saturday, be super exciting, and literally from the Saturday before, everyone just forget about your loss.
I also think in an MMA perspective, like if you overcommit, did you watch the UFC on the weekend?
Some of it.
So the first fight of the night was a gentleman called Martin Day versus Manchester's Davy Grant.
I did see that, and I saw the knockout, yeah.
Davy Grant overcommitted in the first round and got dropped hard.
Yeah.
And he's now going home with a knockout win. Brilliant. But he's going home with a broken nose and 2 fractures in his jaw.
Yeah, that's what with MMA, like the consequence of a minor mistake.
Insane.
Your health, you know? Where in jiu-jitsu, the consequence of a minor mistake is you get your guard passed, you might lose a match, and then you can just go and compete again next weekend. You know, like a great example of that right now is Roberto Jimenez.
Yes. I mean, that guy, Jesus.
What a guy. He's on the next committee again.
So him, Felipe Andrew, and Victor Hugo.
Yeah, man.
Place. They just compete at absolutely everything. And Roberto's done 6 big shows. He's won one of them, but he's just like, fuck it. You'll see me next week. Like, whatever.
Well, if I don't, if actually there's not much just going on in the UK anytime soon, I'm probably going to fly to Texas. I think.
Get a match on Third Coast or something?
Yeah, there's shows happening in Texas all the time, you know, so I think we can try and get some matches there. So, but as an athlete, you know, I think it's just important that you want to stay active in it, you know, you want to get back out there, compete. Even given the conditions, like no one's training properly. So, like, if you're both 50% or both 100%, there's still still a good match.
Who would you like in a match out in Texas if you could get somebody from the UK, from the US scene?
The dream matches for me right now are Gianni Grippo or Gio
Obviously.
Martinez. Um,
I mean, don't talk to me about that Gio Martinez match. Like, that still pains me that you had to call that card off.
maybe, I don't know, Bruno Frazzata. Basically, like a lot of guys who fought in ADCC where I believe like I might have been able to do better than them in the spot they were in. To be like it's not unfair to say out loud. To be like, I believe I could beat these guys, and kind of if I can beat I know a few guys who were in ADCC last time, who were not. Because like a lot of guys I feel like some guys get invited back from ADCC, you know, out of their name and the people they know and stuff, even though they have not put the best showings in the last 2-3 events. So it'd be nice to compete against them outside of that, just to get the feel for them. You know, like I don't want to go across and be like, oh yeah, I'll just compete against Tanquinho straight away. Or it's like, you know, that's not a problem. But I wouldn't, like, in terms of a dream matchup, that would not be right now. As in, I will want to compete against him for sure, and actually relatively soon. I'd love to compete against him before ADCC happens. But like right now, I want to almost like an MMA guy. You know, they take like not safe fights, but they take good fights to kind of get the record going and build a momentum.
Build that level. Yeah.
That's where I'm at right now, because I haven't competed for a while. You know, like I don't want to go across and compete against someone who's been fighting every weekend for the last like 3 months, and I had one match in the last 8 months. I think that wouldn't be the ideal scenario, you know, but I just want to get competing, you know. So like I said, the Gio Martinez, Johnny Grippo, Bruno Frazzata, kind of Summer Chantry, Casino, like any of those guys who are kind of relatively active, doing really well. Like Cass, I'd love to have the Zhao match back.
Have they put a show on recently? They haven't, right?
Well, Cass, I'd be really quiet because I think New York is a lot stricter right now. So
definitely.
Might be the issue. But I would love to fight either the 155 or the 135 title. Or is it 145 Johnny's got? So the 145.
I think it's 145.
Yeah, 145, 135. I'd love to fight for the Zhao or the Johnny Grippo for those titles. That'd be brilliant. Kind of just get my name in as many organizations as possible. Oh, like Sam Chantry, I think, has got the 155 title fight to win. I would sign the contract tomorrow all day. Like I would love that match, 100%. You know, like I'm just excited to just get back out there and it's more for me just getting the ball rolling, ready for ADCC.
I know that he's a lot bigger than you, but I'd love to see you versus Edwin Najmi at some point.
That guy's good.
That guy's really good. I would love to see those styles go together. That would be a cracking match.
He's been looking sharp, man. Like,
especially in the pajamas.
I was gonna say I would not put the pajamas on.
Yeah, fuck like, that.
We were watching Fight to Win, and the boys were like, "Oh, would you like to compete against him?" I was like, "Not in a gi, I would." Fuck me. I actually intend to return to gi at some point in my career and maybe try qualify for Worlds again. I qualified for Worlds at my first year black belt. But kind of under the radar, I didn't really do that much. I wasn't competing too much gi, but I'd like to compete gi again and qualify for Worlds. A black belt.
I mean, I think that's something that I find quite interesting. Like, obviously, people know you as a no gi grappler, right? But obviously, you've spent a lot of your jiu-jitsu career from white to black in the gi, and do you miss the gi at all?
Yeah. I train. I've been training more gi once or twice a week now this year than I ever have before. A lot of my students love the gi, and the boys are very, very into it. The only issue I got with gi is the fact that because the IBJJF have kind of done everyone a favour and it's a service at the same time, because they have made the ability for people to compete in professional, like good level tournaments all the time. You know, the consistency, and they've produced incredible tournaments and everything else around the world. But equally, then when everyone does a gi super fight, like they sweep the stall because the way you compete in IBJJF, because the way you compete in IBJJF, a lot of people in the gi, they do a lot less entertaining jiu-jitsu. So I feel like if I put a gi on full time, my career just wouldn't take off. You know, I would be stuck having boring matches. But I also believe that's why Gordon Ryan didn't transfer to the gi when he said he was going to, because he put it on and he was like, I mean, there's no one here who's entertaining. You know, the work I'd have to put in to win Worlds, for example, in the gi would be ridiculous. It wouldn't be enjoyable. and he probably went, I could still just kill it no gi and make make a legacy for myself. And that's what I'm trying to do myself, make a legacy at 66 kilos, and just keep moving forward that in that type of respect. Like I will do a bit of gi, but will it ever be my prime focus? I don't think so.
And sort of for somebody that predominantly trains no gi, right? Like, when did you make that decision to switch to prime?
I didn't really. It got made for me. I was doing
Right.
50-50 up until my first EBI. Literally, I was doing 50-50 gi and no gi, qualified for black belt world gi. I won the European no gi, brown and black belt consecutively. I was doing 50-50 training. I was doing equal gi. Like when I would go away for like Paris no gi open, I would do the gi open. I would always do both tournaments every single time. I would always compete gi and no gi. I would do Naga, gi and no gi every single time. And then when I got into EBI, I started doing no gi, and then I was like, whoa, these guys I'm competing against, I just do no gi all of the time. And I was like, all right, let's go to maybe like a 75-25 split. And then I got on EBI again, and I was like, okay, let's do an 80-20 split. And then I got on Polaris, and I got on Kasai, and then I started getting seminars, and no one's phoning me going, oh, can you do a gi seminar? But that doesn't happen to me. Like people go, oh, can you come do a no gi seminar on this? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. So for me, it's all about my career, because jiu-jitsu is like the best paid sport in the world by a long shot.
Yeah.
So it would be even worse for me in a gi, to try and make a living, try and make a livelihood out of this. I got a trip. I did some, I went out and taught and did some seminars in Australia last year.
Beautiful.
And that was all because of Nogi. Like I was speaking to somebody yesterday, and they were like, "Oh, you seem to travel a lot." I was like, "I've got to be honest. Like, jiu-jitsu really has given me a great lifestyle, which I'm super appreciative of. But if I was in a gi, I wouldn't have gone to Australia. So you've got to weigh the pros and cons of that, and that's where I feel I'm at. I've got mad respect for athletes who do both and do both at a really high level. If you take something like Gilbert Burns, like what is that guy? What is that, man? Like
Phenomenal, right? I mean, even Edwin Najmi in ADCC in no gi, and now just flying triangle in everyone.
Yeah, doing like incredible. But I do think obviously when you think Edwin, for example, obviously his show at ADCC was really bad.
Sure. Still got that though.
Yeah, no, he did. And he's brilliant on. And in IBJJF Nogi, he does do phenomenal. He is brilliant, But I do think in terms of pro submission grappling, as it goes further and further down the line, the guys who are doing both are going to be probably found out a little bit more. Even if you just take Craig Johnson against Keenan, when they fought that gap apart the first time, Keenan wrecked him really in ADCC. Did really, really well. And then they had a super fight in Polaris, and then Craig kind of put the works in him. But during that time period, Keenan was probably doing 50-50, and Craig was doing all submission grappling. So I think it's going to get more exposed as time goes on.
Yeah, and do you think that they're, how do I word this? Like, it feels to me, and I've had a couple of competitors, Rob Drysdale and whoever, say different, but I feel like submission grappling is now very different from gi jiu-jitsu, and I use those different terms with a reason. And do you think that there's any meat to that, or do you think it's just the same thing?
So the way I explain that to a lot of people, the way I talk about it a lot, is I compare rugby league and rugby union.
Yeah, so that's a great analogy.
They're two separate sports. 100%, you cannot deny that. And if you took a rugby union team to play a rugby league team, they would win in their rule set. They would win in their rule set, but they could play the game against each other and it would still be competitive. Because the fundamental skill set and the fundamental principles of the game are very similar. The crossovers are massive, but the differences in the rules and the differences in what the athletes are able to do is what allows people to capitalize in certain situations, So I still think the crossover is high, but every year that the sports are both growing, I believe the crossover is just getting a little bit smaller now, Like still high, like 60-70%, crossover between the two. But it is reducing more because of like the lapel-based guards, the leg lock systems. Like the crossover's getting a little bit less. I find it really ironic when people watch, or people are like asking Dan ahead to do gi tutorials. I think it's just quite funny that because like yes, he's produced incredible, amazing athletes, nogi, world level, winning lots of things, but he hasn't produced anything in a gi. But it's just weird that because like, but that still shows that people respect his knowledge within the two, and the
Of course.
massive because Dan has got a massive comprehensive knowledge of gi jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So if he's got massive comprehensive knowledge of both, then the crossover still must be huge.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a fair point. Like, to me, watching it, like, I feel like they are very different, but I think it's also how the metas are driven into sports, right? Like,
that's the big thing. Like, you when you watch rugby, you know, like, you get a season where the positional kicking is the big thing, which wins a lot of people matches. Then you get, like, pick and goals. You know, like, England literally won a World Cup off of them mauling.
yeah.
That's the thing, like the meta of the sport and what's really being worked at that given time. That is what gives you the biggest kind of loophole, and it's the one thing that does make the biggest difference between the two sports. But you know,
Absolutely.
the is massive fundamentally.
Absolutely. So one of the final questions I want to ask about the jiu-jitsu stuff is: let's say you're given a match in 6 weeks' time.
Yeah.
How are you prepping? How are you setting out your schedule? What does it look like?
Okay, so now I use this all the time because it's really interesting. I actually spoke to some like game on League of Legends, and I spoke to one of my mates, and he was like, "Do you like when you take 2 weeks off? How do you go back into a match and feel good?" I'm like, because I designed my jiu-jitsu to be based on my skill set being good, as in I don't attributely base my jiu-jitsu. So
that's huge. We need to go into that. Yeah.
So that's why it's an interesting topic because say like you're an attribute-based athlete, as in you're stronger, more physical, gas tank's better than most of your opponents.
Yeah.
If you take a month off, your attributes diminish. Then when you come back, your performance is a lot worse. If you're confident in your skill set, as in you're confident that technically you are superior, if you have 2 weeks off, your technical ability, your technique does not diminish the same as attributes diminish.
The timing thing, right?
Yeah. So when I have a bit of time off in between a match and I do another match, people are like, "Oh, how did you cast off your arm and then compete against someone who's world class?" I'm like, because I didn't like just like take a knock to the head and lose my jiu-jitsu and spell out. Like, as in, yeah, attributely I am worse. My gas tank's a little bit worse. My cardio, my strength is a little bit worse. But my jiu-jitsu is still there. And that's what I believe in strongly. You know, like, would it be better if I could get my attributes up to a very high level? Yes, that would be perfect. But is it essential? No. Same as Gary Tonan's, if you eat, if cheeseburgers are between you winning or losing, then your jiu-jitsu is a problem, not the cheeseburger.
Yeah, sure.
And that's the biggest thing I stand by, is that I got confidence in my own skill set, and that's why I could have a few days off, come back and roll, and I'd still feel good. Like, would I prefer to have good prep to get my attributes higher? Yes, I would, 100%. So that's my answer to that. So when I take my 6 weeks for a match, I just train on a Monday. Do I feel good? Feel a bit tired? Okay. We'll train a bit lighter on a Tuesday. Oh, feel good on a Wednesday. Let's train a bit harder. And especially in these circumstances, on a generic 6-week camp, I'd be training twice a day, every day pretty much, and it'd be a quite consistent routine. But right now, in these current circumstances, it's all about the fact that I'm confident in my skill set, and I'm going to train. And if I feel good on that given day, brilliant. If I have a bad day, then I'll just reduce the load, take my time, recover a little bit, and then train harder the next day.
Yeah, and I think there's something that I've spoken to you off air about, and it's that the way that you build your cardio is through doing the sport that you're going to do, right?
100%, yeah.
And I think that
I really believe in that. I won't start running, jogging, doing any sprints or like that. I honestly believe that to build good conditioning for jiu-jitsu, you should just be rolling a lot. The one thing you can do, which a lot of people don't do in jiu-jitsu, is you can do like 50% roll in or 75% roll in. Same as like sprints and then running a couple of miles. You can do both. They're both beneficial. But the problem with jiu-jitsu is everyone just wants to go all the time. And that's negative impact on your body.
I actually really like, I think that it's really neglected, the idea of like 35%, 50%, 60% rolling. And I think, not only do you get more time when you are rolling, but you also get to see stuff that when you then go into 100% roll, you're like, oh, I'm here again.
You can roll lighter without doing bad jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually think a lot of the time when it comes to 100% jiu-jitsu, a lot of people will lean on, even if they're not an attribute-based player, they will lean on their attributes more.
100%. If you can rip out of a submission, you will. Where if you go lighter, you can be like, oh man, I probably shouldn't be caught there.
Yeah. I think that's huge. And the one thing I will ask is if you're coaching a class of, say, purple belts, right?
Yeah.
How do you communicate that? How do you communicate that to them?
In a combat sport, it's so difficult because if you take a room full of novice or pro boxers, at the end of the day, they go light and someone gets tapped a little bit too hard, the other guys get back harder. It's the nature of people. I mean, so it's very difficult because you take absolute novices or high level pros and you say we go in X amount of hard. As soon as someone does this, the next person does this. And it is escalation. So as a coach, it's more about just trying to keep, like, every time this happens, you got to go, well, hey, keep that down. Keep that down. Because, like, we got one guy in our gym who particularly is bad at it. You go, oh, should we have a nice light warm-up roll? And then he's trying to pull your heel off. And you're like, bro, like, we literally are cold. We are cold right now. We're touching hands and we're flowing. And you were trying to break my foot. Not helpful. And that's what I think is, like, that's what is hard, again, within the sport we talked about earlier, with the idea of having equipment. Like, it's very hard for this sport to design the perfect session because you need like-minded people.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And I think you've given some absolutely golden details there about, you know, the equipment analogy is beautiful because you're so right. Like, I have a main training partner, you have a main training partner. Everyone that has done jiu-jitsu for longer than 6 months will have a main training partner, somebody they like to roll with, someone they like to be with, someone they trust. And when that person's not there, you're looking around the room like, oh fuck, like so I think that's a huge point. The other point is of, you know, giving a baseline of jiu-jitsu, because you're right, like even Ross's butterfly system, when he snaps the arm and he's got that violin grip and he'll use that to transition to lots of different things, you know, that will work for Ross in a certain way. It'll work for you in a certain way.
What I said to my students with regards to Ross in the last weekend is I believe he was probably competing at maybe a 50 to 60% capacity of what he's able to. Yeah. And obviously he still just showed that he's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'd like to get Ross on and maybe have a chat with him if he's willing and see what his thoughts are, because, you know, when I watched that match and I take nothing away from Dom Dillon, what a performance. Ross was right. He found a hole in his game and he utilized it almost perfectly. Yeah. But Ross was still Ross, right? In some fashion.
For sure.
And, you know, Bradley as well. Like, Bradley is no joke. He's a phenomenal grappler, great guard passer, great heavy pressure. And Ross was able to weather the storm. He was able to keep that guard retention. And that armbar transition is just,
it was excellent. Yeah, very, very good.
So, yeah, I mean, Ross is obviously still phenomenal. You know, you don't go into, like, I think Ross is a great embodiment of what you've said about having a skills based output, right?
100%. Yeah, as in his output compared to efficient output is very good.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing I want to ask really is just because I know that we've spoken about this off air, so I think it's important that people hear it. Like, talk to me a little bit about your diet, bearing in mind you are a high level grappler, like, and somebody that makes 66 and whatever. Like, talk to me a little bit about your diet.
So I try not to yo-yo diet. So, like, that's why I diet the way I do, which it's not a good diet, to be fair. But the problem I find is, like, you get a lot of people like, right, I'm going to cut out carbs for 4 weeks. And then I'm gonna take loads of water on my body and then compete. I'm like, okay, cool. And when you train Monday to Thursday, do you do that as well? Or because, like, I go eat these chicken bites in Wetherspoons, for example. Is like I eat there quite frequently when I go out with my family and that.
Yeah.
When I fought Ethan Kralstein, I just went to Wetherspoons, ate chicken bites. When I fought Kev Cokill, Wetherspoons, ate chicken bites, I'm going to compete. Like, I try to keep, like, my protein high, but I'm not afraid 100%. Like, in a given day, I'll probably have, like, bacon and egg on toast in the morning. Then I'll have, like, chicken and rice in the afternoon. then I'll have a chocolate bar if I train hard. On the weekend, I'll probably have a takeaway. You're like, it's more like, as in, I try to keep a normal diet where 80% of the food is productive towards my training.
Yeah.
And then 20% is within my kind of calories. And say my weight starts to go up, I take out the 20% that's not really needed. Do you mean so I can keep everything else consistent? But I definitely am not afraid to sit down and eat a Domino's. Do you mean like of Chinese? It's not a big deal. Like I sit down and eat a pack of crisps. I won't feel guilty about it. Like associating guilt to food is a really, really bad thing to do in your head. You know, like if I ate a pack of cookies last night, literally didn't bat an eyelid. Who cares? I'm gonna train today. What's the big deal? You know, like it doesn't really matter. Did I get chicken and rice in before those cookies? Yes. So I mean, I did. If I need to lose weight, well, I'll just not eat the cookies. I'll eat the chicken and rice, but I won't eat the cookies. You know. But it's a case of like I feel like I perform very good in the gym at 6 o'clock every day, doing my normal day-to-day routine. So why would you want to do that? In 3 weeks for competition, go right, sack all that off, change my diet completely, change my whole day routine, and then expect performance to be similar. Really bad idea.
And I mean, look, obviously there'll be nutritionists and dietitians that will be screaming at their screen right now. But in the same vein, I think something that you've preached before and something that I think is really important is finding out what works for you and adopting that. You know.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think people don't take into consideration is mental health. So you go, right, Ash, what I want you to do is I want you to put your body through hell twice a day, 5 days a week. And what we'll do is we'll give you some avocado to eat. We know you don't like avocado, but it'll produce good performance. So if you eat the avocado, you'll be better in jiu-jitsu. And I'll go, okay, cool. I eat the avocado. I'm like, I absolutely hate my life right now. Then I go train. I'm fine off my training session. I feel like a piece of shit because I feel bad. Like up here is suffering because even though the fuel I'm giving myself is good, I'm not enjoying it. So my overall life reduces in happiness. So I don't produce anything when I go on the mat. You know, consistency within feeling yourself and feeling good. It is like when I speak to athletes, I go, do you enjoy it? And they go, oh, I don't know. Just quit then.
Yeah.
Quit, because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to have the longevity of doing it every day, twice a day for 10 years to become very, very high level. Like the truth is, I love what I do. So, I'm happy to give up some snacks now and again. But am I cutting them out of my life for good? No, because I'm good at jiu-jitsu, so I can eat a cheeseburger, you know?
And I think that's probably a beautiful way to end it in that, the answer is you can still be a high-level grappler and have a cheeseburger if you want, or have a packet of cookies, or go to Wetherspoons and eat chicken bites if that's what you want.
Yeah, but don't eat 100 cheeseburgers every day.
Yeah, sure.
It's just consistency and moderation. It's no like science or like I've cracked it. There's no like whenever I speak to like I've actually had 5. I think I had 5 different people do me meal plans or 5 and lifting plans.
Okay.
And then I do them for like a month, and I'm like, my quality of life has just gone. Let's go back to what I was doing because I was happier. I was just happier being me, and I'll eat my cheeseburger and I'll roll.
Yeah.
Cool. You know?
Beautiful. Right. Please, before you go, tell people where they can find you if they, for some reason, don't know you on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff.
I'm on Instagram as AWilliamsBJ. Check me, follow on there, and obviously I update my training schedule and stuff quite frequently. Or just add me as a friend on Facebook. If anyone's got any questions, anything about their own training or anything they're wondering, feel free to shoot me a message. Currently, I'm doing Zoom classes once a week, which are open to everyone, and I speak about different topics every week. But I'm fairly just an open book, you can ask me anything you want. And when this all happens to blow over, if you happen to find yourself in Swansea, which no one ever does, funny enough, because it's in the middle of nowhere, feel free to come train with me.
Absolutely, and I will co-sign that with, I went and I did a weekend with Ash, and the questions I had, I shot him on Instagram, and he answered in great detail. And equally, the gym in Cardiff is beautiful. It's got great guys, Ash and Chris and everyone there, just phenomenal grapplers. And yeah, if you're there, definitely get yourself down and have a roll for sure. But I will thank you very much for your time, sir, and I'll speak to you soon.
No worries. Thanks, Harry.
Cheers.